Hi, all, Freeze Cracked here. I thought I'd do another show and tell a little bit, but there's method to the madness. This is bifaces that are quote unquote close to blades. And I believe that the vast majority of things in this box are, this is Central Texas archaic stuff. I think the vast majority of this stuff is stuff that was intended for use, a use life initially as it is, and then the span of life gets worked down and might eventually become a projectile point or whatever, but for the most part, at the current time where it ended up was a tool being used as it was. So I just want to show you some of this stuff, and I want to talk about edges a little bit in that process. The first thing I'll show you is my favorite in a way of things that I've looked at lately. See if I can get where you can see it well. What this is it's a unifacial blade. It has a couple of flakes there, a little one there to regularize some of the rippling that was on that side of the flake. But then this side was flaked all the way around to bring it down. And look how nice the edges are. Nice, sharp, cool edges. And note that a lot of times with this archaic stuff, you don't see, initially on a stage 1 tool, you don't see flaking all along the edges. The flaking just removes the deltas. And there might be some little micro retouch and everything like that, but they don't, and this was a great rock. So this is really wonderful. I like it. Okay, now what do I do with it? I didn't think through this. Okay, so this is interesting work. This is going for as thin and sharp as you can get the edge. And all you do is you make sure you're really aggressive at hitting your flakes inward, and you continue to hit inward and working off a knife thin edge. And I think this is punch work. Look at this flake. It lipped, but it came all the way in here. And see how it went broad and square terminated? I'm trying to figure out where to touch to focus on this. Dadgummit. There. Okay, there. This flake right here came in broad and square terminated. That square termination and its sinking is, on support. But that's a cool little tool. It's real light. Some of the stuff you pick it up and it feels like a feather. It doesn't feel like anything you normally pick up. And you're like, man, this is a very thin blade and it was used a lot. I really like this kind of stuff. The more the stuff is used and the gnarlier it is, the better I like it. And I'm not saying you gotta like it, but I'm just saying. Very straight. Very nice edge with a lot of little use where dings and nicks on it, but very well done. Whoever made this knew what they were doing. Big time. Oh, and look. That was something I wanted to show you. They just left it like that. It didn't, I mean, it broke at some point, but they didn't bother trying to work it all off. And you can see it doesn't distort the tip. They worked around it. So there was a break there and they worked around it, and it could have been that they actually intended to, use their finger up in there. I don't like to guess to that kind of stuff. But they didn't feel like it was necessary for what they were doing with this blade to be worked off, and it would have changed the shape a lot, so they just went with it. You see that a fair amount where they just incorporate things into the finished work. There's several things in here that are stromatolite material. This is You see it's a little bit more purpley, and it's more chalcedony looking in a way than, and then it's got a lot of the white spots and things. That's not really so much concrete as it is differential. This is also stromatolitic material. What that was is there was like this ancient, they still exist, but ancient, why is it not focusing? This is like a digging tool. See, there's the bit end. An ads or something? I don't know. I like this tool. But anyway, what I was saying, bioherms, blue-green algae type, the edges of seas and things, they mound up. They're colonial thingamabobs. Well, those things in central Texas, they solidify differently, and they have this shape that looks like it's humped up and layered. And it's fossil. It's biogenic origin of the silica. This is a tough rock, but they whacked in hard, intentionally hinged all in the center to get these edges. And boy, did they get them edges. Big tool, good tool. Good in the hand. There's another thin one. It's just amazing to me how good these guys were with percussion. Some of them. It just really, I like the stuff a lot. The work is inspiring. You can tell there's another. That actually looks unfinished though. Hang on, I'm thinking. This edge is used. It's got used wear on it. That failed there. Doesn't really look like they used that edge. So this is more first stage rudimentary. This looks a little bit like it could have been something done with it. But that right in there looks like it might have been used. And that looks stromatolite too. This, definitely. Big lip there. They were going for the gusto on that strike. They were trying to do some major thinning. It looks like this front end is thinner and the back end was heavy. And there's a flake there and there's a real strong flake there. Trying to do some thinning here, and then they set that up and went really hard and they caught it high and it lipped off. And it failed right there. You can see where when it lipped off, it started digging and it just popped out instead of, probably was intended to be like an overshot. But still looks like it was a good tool and still looks like it got used a fair amount because it doesn't, I mean, why not? You see plano convex stuff quite a bit where it's flat on one side and convex on the other side. And that doesn't affect, I mean, I think that's a benefit in some cases for using hand tools. Unifacial resharpening loses less width and gives you two different angles. I just think it's, can make a better tool. Where's its other? I was going to show you. Okay, see this? It's dished this way, and it's not worked there. You see a fair number of tools that are done like that. And it's almost like they like having that kind of a little bow to the tool. And I think it has to do with use in scraping or cutting, like if you were trying to cut meat off a bone or something, I don't know. Or hide scraping. This is way too sharp to be used as a hide scraper. Very sharp edges. Very sharp point. Again, that is a well-made tool. It's not that somebody couldn't get what they wanted out of it. This is what they wanted because they knew what they were doing. This is some good work on this thing. I mean, there's nothing that looks like an accident on it. You might think I'm reading too much into it, but this is a Pedernales point preform. Is what this is. And what happened is they quit working it because of this overshot failure. They set that up and they had pressure accidentally on that face, and so instead of running straight across and coming off, that thing rolled downward and cut through it and cut off enough of it that it no longer was what they needed, and they hadn't invested a lot of time in it, and they had a bazillion other rocks laying around in that area, so they just threw it down. Looks like. I can't tell. I don't see any use on it. I think they probably just threw that down. What is the deal with this? I don't know, but I like it. It's funny. That almost looks like it was just vertical punched. Hang on, let me think about this. That's either all hammerstone work or it was vertical punched with not a great understanding of how to keep the edges from failing. It has character though, I like it. Another example of hitting in really hard, just inward, get the edge thin, and get it really sharp and very, very thin. There's a lot of stuff over from Central Texas like super thin. This looks like a hammerstone strike or something, but whatever it was, it split the flake. They were going for the gusto on thinning, and it didn't work very well because it rose up and it split the flake. The edge failed a little bit on it. This stuff all came from Andy. Andy has been a great source for study pieces for me. This one they didn't quite finish. They were not having a lot of success, although this series of flakes along here are pretty cool. Maybe they did. I guess they did use it like this. Yeah. Most of the stuff shows use on it. This is real thin. Real thin, good edge. Very light. I don't have to show you all this stuff. I just thought I'd show you some of that. That's super thin. And really kind of what it looks like is, it kind of looks like they were going for something longer and they snapped it and they sharpened the snapped end, but it's really thin. It's very light, very flat. It's a good work. It's a real good napper. Understood things, well, but. And I think basically it got converted and used, as a knife, like a square form kind of knife. Good tool. Can you say problems? Bad rock, super aggressive approach. Really aggressive approach. Make it or break it approach. Swinging for the fences way after, you know, in a really dangerous situations. Real thickness on the ends. So this middle stuff, I think this one's the one that's broken and glued. I can't see. Yeah, it was broken and glued. This is really aggressive work. Didn't get the ends where they wanted it before they did the middle, and hitting hard. This was going for a big overshot, but the edge failed and it rolled out. This one was a big overshot, and this big overshot, I actually think, what broke it? Maybe this flake broke it. But I like this kind of thing because you know what? I'll never meet this old boy. Had guts, was going for the gusto, didn't care, make it or break it. Okay, he broke it, but it's cool. Neat artifact. This thing's cool. This is light for its size. Bad rock, but it's light, and man, it got thinned a lot. Very cool. Looks like it's got a fair amount of use on it. This is a lip fracture, I think. I don't know. It's not really. Actually, that failed probably right because of that little inclusion right there. It failed when the guy hit it because it just broke off. It doesn't show the typical lipping where it kind of rolls. It just came off. Super fine edges though. Neat. Okay, maybe I am irrationally exuberant over this stuff, but I like it. Cute little blade. What the heck would you call this? A semi-unifacial curvil knife? I guess. This was a river cobble. This is not coming from elevation. This has been in the river. And I guess they just were looking for one working edge. So what they did is knock this off flat, knock this off kind of, mainly on one side. They didn't even come down this side, and then retouch this a little bit, and that's their edge. Maybe a single-use tool for a lefty? An expedient? Single-use tool for a lefty. That's my guess. The reason I say that is I don't think that this was a core that they just needed flakes off of, because the nature of the flakes they took don't make sense to me for that purpose. So I think this was the tool, and it does have what appears to be a fair amount of use wear on that edge. By the way, to the best of my understanding, you say, okay, that's all white. That's not. Why? Well, this coloration, from my understanding, and this, same thing, it's not the same color on both sides. These artifacts, I guess, usually end up on the ground, however they are, at the same position for long periods of time. Well, my understanding of the white stuff is that is a desilication indicator, where it was like in an alkaline environment, and the silica was going into solution off the face and creating like micro porosity that makes it look that way. But then most of it is also slick and has like a gloss patination on top of the thing. And I think that might be reprecipitation of some of that silica that goes into solution, gets, when the environment changes, it would fluctuate over time. But I'm in over my head there because I'm not a chemist and I'm not an expert on patination. This is really well made. Thin. Love it. Now, again, one of the main things I wanted to mention on all this stuff that I haven't is there ain't a single place on any of these artifacts where I see any grinding. None. So, well, wait a minute, that feels ground. I would say I'm just kidding, but all right. Maybe there's a tiny bit on one spot on one of these artifacts, but the point is, the way you get really thin edges is you just barely get them strong enough to not fail, and then rip off your flakes on either side to where, with any luck, there aren't deltas, but there wasn't grinding, and it just sharp as heck. Oops. I'm trying to focus this sucker. What else do we have? I need to stop. I need to go find food. Y'all need to go into therapy to recover from watching my stuff. That's a bad rock. Well, they didn't get too far with that one before they chunked it down. I think that was a really tough rock, and they went and found a better one. That's what it looks like. What the heck is this? Oh my gosh. This looks like it was in a kitchen midden. Because it's got all that. Looks like it was in greasy ashes. It smells like it was in greasy ashes. Not really. It does smell funkitated though. I like that. This is one of them guys, and these guys. I'm not saying you're one of these guys, but he was going for the outline. I mean, it's like, well, I know, man, it's not good for anything, but look how cool it looks. Just kidding. It actually does have sharp edges. What this is more indicative of than anything is an ultra tough rock. I doubt that the problem was as much with the maker in this case as it was with the rock. Because there is a whole lot of Central Texas material that will ruin your arm and your ego. There's another, I guess that's a mark from when the thing was recovered, but another flake unifacial flake knife thing. All right, I'm stopping. Sorry to have droned on, but remember, I'm not just a mapping and artifact analysis instructor. I also am an insomnia cure. So when you play this video is entirely up to you, and the purpose of playing it is entirely up to you also. But I will say one thing. Everybody's equipment, everybody's, I don't care who's watching this out there, don't tell me your equipment doesn't have a volume control. So if you don't want to hear the talking, then don't tell me I don't want to hear the talking, just turn the volume down, right? Or go watch Marty because his instruction is better than mine anyway. Bye for now. Freeze crack.